Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground, ACIM. Above the Battleground is based on the teachings of a spiritual self-study path known as A Course in Miracles. I've been a student of A Course in Miracles since 1992, and because I and so many of us really have been thrown for a loop on what appears to be going on in this world at this time, I decided to create this channel so that I could share with me and you lessons of A Course in Miracles so that it would run deeper inside me and so that I would be able to negotiate my life in this body from a more peaceful perspective. You teach what you want to learn. Now you're knowing what I want to learn. So today I thought I would address the issue of, well, what should I say? What should I do? And it really needs to be said that A Course in Miracles is not about changing our behavior. And that's a surprise. It's a surprise to many. It is about instead changing our mind. And that means choosing between two teachers. We have to make a choice. The decision maker in our mind makes a choice between ego, divisiveness, separation, specialness, competition, comparison, me over you, you over me, win, lose, that teacher. And the other teacher, which is the mind of God, which does not see those differences, instead sees us as one. The Son of God is one. So when I am confronted by situations, even including if I'm watching the news, right? If I'm reading something, if I can be in a position to choose the right teacher, the response, there can be behavioral response. There can be words that would be said. There can be behaviors that might be exhibited. But it comes from the teacher. So let me just share with you a little reading from the text. And I feel like this might be the time that I should share with you exactly what A Course in Miracles may look like to you, and many of you already have your own books, I know. This is the third edition. The third edition contains the text, the workbook, a manual for teachers, a clarification of terms, a section on psychotherapy, and finally concluding with the song of prayer. The last items being an extension of the principles of A Course in Miracles. So what I want to do is just read you two brief passages from the text, and this is chapter 14, and it is, God's Son will always be indivisible. As we are held as one in God, so do we learn as one in Him. The oneness, the undoing of the separation, this is what exists in the mind of God. Now, here's another phrase from that same section. If you want peace, you must abandon the teacher of attack. The teacher of peace will never abandon you. So, when I am feeling disrupted by external circumstances or by thoughts in my mind, it is very important that I choose the mind of God. Now, I want to share with you a couple of episodes where I was the source of someone else's upset and how they responded to me. So, back in the day when, you were looking for guys, we didn't have the dating apps. So basically what you did is you went from bar to bar to bar. So I dragged this one friend, Kathy, with me. And Kathy, I don't know if she knew, but I think she figured it out, that I was hunting for this one particular guy. And when he wasn't at a particular bar, then I said, oh, Kathy, let's go somewhere. Well, anyway, finally we got, I don't know, to the fourth or fifth bar. And I'll never forget what Kathy said to me. She goes, Linda, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. So what I want you to know is after you're done with this, call me and we'll go out. And then she gave me a little hug and she left that fourth or fifth bar, whichever one it was. And the reason why it stands out in my mind is that she had that way of expressing her feelings for me without destroying me, but being able to stand up for herself. And I thought that was fabulous, I really did. And, fast forward, I can remember my dad being a very passionate dad, called me into his office for a little discussion. And the discussion was based on the fact that as an older child, it was time for me to pay rent, But I always remember that the way that he did it with me was so wonderful. And if you knew my father, you knew that he really had to go to God to sound so calm and loving. And he was 100% a loving father. But, I could be frustrating. So I remember that. Now, I have to tell you, because I think sharing my weaknesses and what I am compelled to look at in myself with a non-judgmental and a compassionate Jesus, I really see what I do. One of the things that I do is, in a way, I'm a what you would call political neophyte. And by that I mean that I've changed a lot of the beliefs that I've had over the course of my life. And, there's nothing as crazy as a convert. You know what I mean? And so I would find when somebody would say something that I would be triggered. I would just constantly trigger. Somebody would say a little thing and that, I never, so many times, didn't pause to ask or seek out the teacher. And so I want to say to all those who are still my friend, even though I blurt many times, is that I aim to go into the pause. I've always thought that God was in that pause. And A Course in Miracles tells me yes. Instead of trigger responses, I fight now for the pause. I go into the mind of God and I find another way of expressing myself. I don't have to attack myself for my belief system, but I will tell you, there's a real difference between a perspective that prefers preferences versus judgment calls against whole groupings of people. I have preferences. Can I prefer vanilla and not hate chocolate? So I want to conclude by saying again, when I choose the right teacher, the right-minded teacher, the teacher who knows that collectively we are just one, that attacking you is an attack on myself, that causing pain for you causes pain within me. Can you stand up to me? Can I stand up to you inside of the right mind, the mind of God that says, I embrace you, you and I, we are alike. We have our dark side, we have our light side. We're all of us struggling for happiness and peace. And if I recognize you as my brother or my sister, as I recognize you that way, You are my friend, and therefore worthy of the words that come out of my mouth, the actions of my behavior. And the truth is, once I choose my teacher will then come to control, if you will, what words or what behaviors I take, and maybe none at all, but I will be at peace. So, A Course in Miracles is not behavioral guidelines, but indeed it is how my mind can choose again, can choose peace. So thank you for being with me today.